And then there's moments where I go, what have I done in my life? What is my purpose? Does my purpose matter anymore? And will I ever be able to figure it out? Will I ever be able to do all those things that in the back of my mind have been there, for hundreds of years? No, I'm not 100 yet, but been in the back of my mind for so long that are still, they're there. Like, I feel like they're like that intuition is my God trigger saying, you got this, remember this. So those mornings that I wake up with anxiety over these things, I just have to stop right there and say, thank you, God, I'm grateful for this life. Thank you, God, I'm grateful for this life. And sometimes I say, thank you, I am happy 100 times just to break it. Because sometimes you have to break the patterning that's set in your mind. I don't even know where it comes from, but it's something that I think many of us are experiencing, even those of us who, pride themselves on always being the happy person in the crowd. I go through it. So.
Let's do it. We're rolling, baby. We're already on the move with this. We're already always on the grow. This conversation is growing as is. Did you just say yo? I like that.
I had to.
I like that. I didn't expect that from you. I
monitor myself.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that. This is the other side of Marla that I'm getting right here. So that's what I'm talking about.
It's probably the major side of Marla that you're getting.
But it's funny because before I was talking to Scott and we were in here, he comes from the same neighborhood-ish as me in Vegas. And it's more like, ghetto hood type of stuff. And we were joking about the schools that we went to and the neighborhood attitude. And then you roll in with the yo. I'm like, oh, that's just a continuation. We're just rolling with the yo today. Should we just do the whole podcast that way and just kind of cool hip? All right.
My hood in the South wasn't as much yo. It was like y'all. It was y'all yo.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm so thankful for this. I've, just been thinking a lot about how to make it the most magical time that we have here, because I know that, as we always text back and forth, the big bright light that you shine into the conversation, and I think we really had some great synergy there. And for us to be in this moment, in this time of life, it's going to breed a lot of hope and future pace the ideology of peace and spirituality and just the things I think that at a core level of being a great human being matter the most, right? So obviously I've got the one and only. That's
what attracted me to you, Manny.
Hey.
All of that, literally your spirit, your light, just the conversations we had. I'm very, very clear about discernment these days. Very cautious who I let into my world. Oh. But years ago when we first connected, there was something in your spirit that said, that's my brother. That's my brother. So
that's right.
I'm so excited to always hear what you're doing and seeing how you are growing. And
thank you.
Doing it together.
Yeah, means a lot. And spiritual brothers and sisters, I think they're always connected. It's just a matter of meeting in time and place, right? And so I think that's how we got aligned there. You have a fantastic story and a fantastic lineage of life. And I think all of it in total has helped you arrive at this moment in your now life. And because I always start the show with a unique perspective from the guest, in this case you, Marla, on their journey up to this point, would you mind sharing with us the perspective of your story and your life to get to this point? And then, as always, I'll find all kinds of good stuff to jump in on and start to have some dialogue around and bring it to the table for us to have a great conversation around.
Thank you. Well, I think every day brings the opportunity to be reborn again. And as I approach this next decade of my life, the numbers are very alien to me of the years that I've been on this earth because my spirit feels so young, and spirit doesn't age. I mean, you can be an old soul, but really your spirit is the timeless part of you. So when I do take that moment to peek back into the past or have reminders of the journey, it just really feels like a million lifetimes thrown together in one that's brought me to this moment now of saying, okay, God, so how do you want to use me now? I'm new, I'm fresh, I'm yours. Wow. So let's do today.
Wow.
Everything in my life has brought me to that point through a lot of challenges, a lot of joy, a lot of a lot of loss, a lot of infiltration of my soul, so to speak, by people that I trusted letting me down, which I believe is not ever that other person's fault. It's about what an opportunity it is for me to grow through that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up a Southern girl, town of 500, Cohutta, Georgia, it was really like a tight bond of family and community. No stoplights, only churches, a couple of stop signs.
Small town.
So I was brought up, sitting on a rock, reading my Bible, I love nature, love being outside, love to meditate, was always a crazy athlete, tomboy, but had God at the core. I finished reading the Bible 3 times by the time I was a teenager.
Wow.
First bit of Genesis all the way through Revelations, which feels very familiar right now. So that was really my journey, was a spiritual one from the beginning. Family was always at the core, and a burning desire to do more and share more and help more. I had family that helped support that and believed and taught me that I could do anything and everything that I chose if I just keep, listening to the word of God in my soul and in my heart and step forward without fear.
Yeah, that's powerful. A couple of things you said there that really strike me as want to go to places. One is burning desire. And the almost the first thing you said out of the gate was born again. And I feel that constant reinvention of the self is a active pursuit that has to happen ongoing. Do you find there is a path or a recipe in your decision to give yourself the reborn again feeling and or go in that direction where it's a process and or there's something that that would help someone else in the same decision or on their trajectory of life to help them feel revival, renewed, something that would make me want to go out and completely change the direction of my life? Maybe I don't feel like I'm a spiritual being. Where did that word come from? Being.
That's a being with a feeling.
But I do that a lot. I promise if you watch enough of these podcasts, you're going to see me mixing words.
You are a being.
That is exactly it. That is exactly it. A being. A being. That's where I was going with that one.
With feeling.
For that person to win in the decision to go into becoming reborn again, how do you instruct that person to go through that process, Marla?
It's a day-to-day experience for me, Manny. I have to be honest. And I'm always about being vulnerable. It is not an easy journey. We have moments of pure joy and where I feel like I can just pull on heaven and feel it right here, with me. And then there's moments where I go, what have I done in my life? What is my purpose? Does my purpose matter anymore? And will I ever be able to figure it out? Will I ever be able to do all those things that in the back of my mind have been there, for hundreds of years. No, I'm not 100 yet, but been in the back of my mind for so long that are still, they're there. Like, I feel like they're like that intuition is my God trigger saying, you got this, remember this. So those mornings that I wake up with anxiety over these things, I just have to stop right there and say, thank you, God, I'm grateful for this life. Thank you, God, I'm grateful for this life. And sometimes I say, thank you, I am happy 100 times just to break it. Because sometimes you have to break the patterning that's set in your mind. I don't even know where it comes from, but it's something that I think many of us are experiencing, even those of us who, pride themselves on always being the happy person in the crowd. I go through it. So I will wake up and say those affirmations just to get me back and centered. I will do my deep breathing. Now, that could be Wim Hof breathing. It could be, a different breath that just feels right to my soul at the moment, a yogic breath, but just to get that channel of that energy and that life force from the top of your head down through your body, through your breath, and ground it out and realize in that moment, I am a child of God. I'm here with purpose, and hug on that heaven, bring it to earth. Make this your domain because you're here, because this is your domain. You are here to walk on this earth and spread your joy and spread your light. Take it from there.
Sure.
Journal it. Journal it. What are the dreams for today? and take those moments just to go within
Sure.
and listen, and expect to hear guidance throughout the course of your day
Are
on
you
what's
saying
next.
are you saying listening from a what the inner voice is telling me? Is that what you're
I
going?
am,
Yeah.
yeah. And that inner voice sometimes comes through people and situations around you too,
Mm-hmm.
I can have that conversation like, let my footsteps go where they need to go today. Let me know who may need something that I have to share, or who may be sharing something that can help me go to the next level. Let me hear that. So for me, it's not always an audible voice, but
Mm.
it can be the voices of what people come into your life during that day,
Right. Yeah.
what situations come up in that day to remind you,
Yeah.
oh, that's what I asked for. So maybe that person has a little gift tucked in there for me, or I have
Yeah.
a gift for them.
That's a very important point. I was in San Diego this past weekend and ran into a few different people that I had interacted with at some level before in the past. And it was a sign to me. And I sat down with my fiance and I said, this very important person that just walked in the room right here in the hotel. And I laughed and smiled because back in the day, I was working some opportunities with them. And I just said, okay, this is my indication that all my life is going in the direction that I wanted to.
Ah,
And I didn't really think much else of that at that point, other than what you just said, almost in the same fashion of what are you receiving from the outside? And that was, in essence, the listening, but in that case, seeing version of what that was. So, yes, I can totally understand what you're saying about that.
so
Marla,
it's
with the
like a confirmation, huh?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love those confirmations because a lot of the
Oh,
times,
heck yes.
yeah.
We need,
Yes,
thank you for those.
absolutely. Because a lot of times you're asking for them, you're seeking for them, but I think a lot of what you're saying has to do with some level of awareness too. You got to be in touch and in tune with it because if not, then you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
burning desire, because you brought that up. All the words you're saying right now, I can go into, and I'm going to explore a couple more of what you just said. But I think a lot of people have an interest. Again, another conversation I was just having about there's two types of things going on in the human being. And I think this will really relate to your purpose in life as I see it and as you communicate around it, which I think the single word is more spiritual for you in that essence, like a lot of spirituality. And so you have a lot of people that are very comfortable because the mind says, I'm comfortable. And then you have all of the spiritual side of someone that says, no, I'm supposed to grow and I'm supposed to develop and evolve and become somebody and something. And so when you say burning desire, how does that attribute to where you are today from a young age? Where did that come from? Did you identify things that you wanted and then go in directions that you had some, I would say, inklings towards, or did you hear something, read something? What I'm getting at is how does someone go and manufacture a burning desire in opposition of what life is trying to do from a brain standpoint, almost like a nature standpoint? The mind and the brain is supposed to be safe and comfortable and reptilian. I'm curious how you would approach that, or how you would tell someone to go out there and manufacture that desire to go out there and do something fantastic with their life.
That's a tough question because it's always moving and changing in my life.
Hmm.
When I said, burning desire, for me, I wanted to know God, as a child, and that was something within me that I was comfortable with. But I was also born in the Bible Belt, so I was surrounded by that in my
Right.
life. But in those quiet times is when I would go deeper and deeper into my thinking, because you can hear a message, but the message doesn't always resonate, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can hear a teaching and it can be brilliant, but maybe it's not for you. So these messages that we get from a preacher, a teacher, or a friend, or a coach, they're beautiful opportunities to hear a perspective. But in the end, we've got to assimilate what really is going to bring that calm and that passion into
Sure.
our own hearts.
Right.
So, from through different stages and decades of my life, there's been times where I had to reassess. And always when I took myself back to that innocent soul that was born in a small town in Georgia that could walk the earth, chase the cows through the pasture, have this really grounded life. I can remember the things that did bring me joy and do my best to incorporate them in a different degree into my life now.
That's fantastic.
I live by the beach, and I hear a lot of happiness going on outside. On days maybe I really want to focus and work, and I'm like, oh gosh, should I be out doing what they're doing? I'm like, no. Allow them to have the happiness.
Right.
Come back, do your work, but be willing to live that life. Be willing to go out there. And I went out a few days ago with a friend to play beach tennis, and I just walked up, and I could have sat here, had my own little private time, done my journaling, done my writing, answered a million, made phone calls, whatever else is on the plate. But the desire was to go there. The fear said, no, I don't know them. How could I do that? It's getting me out of my comfort zone. But that getting you out of your comfort zone, I went down. We had so much fun. They invited me in. It was a championship, invited me in to play, threw me some cute little beach tennis clothes, gave me, a few notes on how to play, invited me to come, be part of the group here.
Sure.
And I feel like, okay, to me, that is what I loved as a child, getting out there, competing, playing sports, being on the earth, being in the sand, touching things. So hey, even now, just don't say, oh, well, they're out having a good time. I've got to do me. Go out and have a dadgum good time. Even if you get a half an hour, the people you meet, the connections you make, the joy. The gal I made was so happy to meet me. She had no clue who I was. And she just said, I just love your energy. Yeah. Somebody else said who you were. Later. But it was a connection that and this will be a friend. This will be someone I'll share life with, because I didn't just sit in my comfort zone. I had a desire and I hesitated, but then I said, go do it. So,
do you think, that's fantastic. So the hesitation part can, if we're painting a picture here, if you hesitate on a desire, it could prevent you from experiencing something more blissful to some extent, as you would see it.
What's that book, The 5-Second Rule? Is it the 10-second rule? What I'm talking about is like you get these ideas quickly, and it's easy to roll away from them if they seem a little challenging. And I think those little ideas are true guide points to lead you to your next greatest step of growth.
Sure. That's great. With the background that you had in terms of that thought process, because I think a lot of people are trying to manage both, like going out, and I'm curious on your take with this, because I think a lot of spiritual developers and people that are going on those journeys in their life, they think more in that direction, and they focus less on taking care of themselves economically or building a business. And I could just be making that up to what I've seen, and I could be completely wrong, which I'm okay with. But if you were in the space that you just mentioned 20, 30, 40 years ago, would you have made the same decision if at that point in your life you're focused on building your life and your career and acting and doing these other things that were more important to you at that point? Or does that decision differ based on the time of your life that you're in now, which is obviously having lived some life, having a wonderful family, and those types of things? Does that make a big difference, timing of those types of decisions to go do something like that?
Interesting, because I talked to my friends about this. Earlier in life, it felt like life was just right ahead of me. It was all right there. Every opportunity, every choice, everything. Oh my gosh, there's an audition for a Broadway show. Should I dare? I'll go study, I'll research, I'll dance, I'll, get back into shape. And then I'm going to go out for that, but everything was right there. At this point in my life, I feel like I'm having to manifest it more, which is a little harder. So there's freedom in that, right?
Right.
And when I was younger, it was just, I was bombarded with opportunities. And then it was really choosing. Now I tended to choose those that were more in alignment with my soul.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, roles as an actress, you just, you work your tail off on auditions, and then you finally get when you're like, okay, this must be the one that's meant to be destiny, because I got booked the part. But in between, it's just, for me, I had to do the work, make the connections, go to class, do everything I needed to do to prepare, but go play softball, go join a local softball team, hit the ball. Sports gives me my energy. I would always go out, go to the park, find a crew to play tennis with. I played with the Broadway Show League for years. Even now, when I go back to New York, they're like, come on out and join us.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I feel at this stage of my life, I'm having to work a little harder to just be true about where I want to put my energy
Sure.
now.
Yeah. And is that energy for you at this juncture? Is it more? What are you referencing in that energy? Because it's not as much. I want to
It's
grow
where
this
I want to
giant.
do business,
It
really.
is. Oh,
Like,
it
how do
is.
I want to do how do I
Okay.
want to do my business? I
Okay.
know, like, I know family is going to always be first.
Sure.
My friendships are too.
Yeah, of course.
And in the, the globe of that is my faith in a higher consciousness and in God. And, like I always say, my passion is pull on heaven, bring heaven on earth, how to bring that more into the lives of the people that, I meet along the way and that I can talk to. But like, what do I want to manifest now for this stage of my life? It was tough during the lockdown shutdown with film. I had a second season of a show I was doing on HBO, and they shut the city down and shut us all down like 2 days before we were going to start. And when we came back, they go, "Oh, new writing team, new storyline. Sorry, we're not. We love you, but you didn't
Right.
make the cut."
Right.
So having to learn how to reassess life or what's the next step going to be. I love talking to you. I love doing podcasts. How to use that more in my life, sharing and creating a financial stream.
Sounds like Soul Shine journeys are back on the way.
And and I work with a lot of brands that I love. I mean, throughout my life, I've loved finding. I've never been one that would run out to a doctor. I always wanted to discover what was going on in my body first. I felt like, I should know this. It's my body, right? And through that journey, I, learned a lot about food and wellness and healing and meditation, breath work, you name it. But really, I started looking at how food can have an effect in your life or your body temple also. So throughout these years, I've met many people that have created really great brands. So I try to work with the brands that I love, the people that I know have integrity behind what they're doing and what they're sharing.
Absolutely.
So I keep my website is up to date. I'm going to keep, I'm jumping it every week a bit more just to share people that I believe in, brands that I believe in, healing ways to help people take control of their life. But maybe they just need to shift things a little bit in their supplementation, what vitamins, what foods, what way they're living their life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You said something a few seconds ago about, hey, just go out and play sports. And, when you go back to New York, go play softball. It's funny because when I got sober, I partied my whole life for the full decade in Vegas, I guess you could say, gambling, drugs, every night, Vegas style, right? That was my life, my job. And then when I got sober, I just remember reading the books and studying the podcasts, and they were all, hey, go do something you enjoy. Just go have some fun. Like, go lighten your load, loosen up. And I would go play golf. I would just go to the driving range. I'd have my golf clubs, and I would just go hit balls on the range, and I would just do it every day. And it was just bringing
physical release. The physical release is very important. We can't get trapped in here. It's like I sometimes I'll show on my Instagram like tapping it out when you're feeling. Oh, I'm not mic'd down. No, good. Tapping it out, opening up those portals, and because we are energy, and we don't want any area to have any kind of blockages. So breath work, tapping work, and grounding yourself with your sports. I mean, some people are like, yeah, well, I've never was an athlete. Well, you can walk.
Yeah, that's very true.
You can hug a tree. I mean, there's energy available to us to help realign us during those difficult times. I had a pretty full day yesterday. Then my kids, Tiffany and Michael, called and said, we're coming in. Come play golf. I'm like, oh, do you want me to play golf with you? Okay, bye, everything else.
That's a day. Yeah. You're not going to miss those moments. Those moments are too precious, right? The family ones, there's no way.
And that's okay. I mean, it's okay. It's all going to get done. What quality, what joy you're having in the process. And through my years of living and walking this earth, the joy is the most important. Not who knows me, who sees me. I know my needs are going to be met as far as living because I will keep going forward. If I keep going forward and meeting people and bringing joy, then, the opportunities come.
Sure.
We all have different paths in which we do earn our money. And I hope that can be connected to your soul mission at the same time. That's the best of all. when
Yeah.
it all really is connected.
Yeah.
And I think in my years, I mean, I'm still an actor, and if I saw something great and they wanted me for it, I would get out and shoot again. But all the time there, it's like, it seemed like when I planned my life in another way, then the job would come, right?
Sure.
But and I would think, well, I'm this spiritual being. I'm here to learn and share and bring light. I know I'm meant to help bring positivity and light into the world, but can I do that as an actor? I really judged my work for many, many years. I went, wait, you're creating an opening. You're creating an audience that maybe not in that role, you might not be doing it, but in the people you're meeting and the exposure you get, it gives you more of an ability to share with a larger audience. So
the
that's why I
platform.
just think yes.
Yeah, your platform's fantastic, right? Meaning you have the freedom and the luxury to influence people the way that you want to, right? There's no control
You've
on
got to
that
be
part.
able to do it in your job, right? Whatever your job is,
of course,
you do it within it. As I know you are.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, 100%.
I love this so much. I could do this every day, every hour, and never make a dime from it, and just have the absolute best time of my life every time. It's just so true. Something about connecting with people and just having great conversations and being curious. It's just my DNA.
Me too. That's where we completely united on that front.
So the next version of this, like I said, we're going to do in person. So we're really borrowing the great energy, even though this is fantastic energy. So I really appreciate you being transparent in the last, I would say 7.5 minutes, maybe it was 10, about where you're at. And now you're evaluating, hey, what do I do next, right? And then you said a few extra things on top of that, which I think are incredibly important in addition to that, which is the word joy. And from your vantage point and from someone that's listening's vantage point, they are also likely either at this moment trying to figure out what to do next and or going to run into a moment where they're like, hey, what else is there to life type of thing. And maybe they're happy, maybe they're not. Maybe they're joyful, maybe they're not. But from the perspective of you in terms of the joy that you can continue to embrace even in the transition point of life where you're like, hey, I don't know what to do next. What should be the next move? And I'm trying to figure this out. How would one, Marla, not let themselves lose the joy in the process? Because I've been there, and when it's something that triggers me or a trauma resurfaces, I have to practice, like you said earlier, it's a practice bringing myself back to peace and back to joy. So I'm curious what it is your recipe where you could say, hey, you might be going through a bit of a bumpy road right now. You might be transitioning. You might be doing the same thing that I am, but here's how we keep joy. Here's how we keep peace of mind, because that ultimately is what matters most.
Yeah. I mean, you just said it. It's like we do go through that. I have my process of going back, to it and through it. And sometimes it can be physical issues that can affect your joy. I'm just learning a lot more about hormones, men and women. The levels of hormones can affect your joy, your outlook, the aging process, how you age. I'm learning more about that. And because I think that's the way even men don't always think of, but it's important because we are physical beings. So we do have those needs to look into also. But joy is something that, I think it's, I really feel that is the most important thing as we as humans can achieve in a lifetime. And there's joy in giving. There's joy in when you're in your worst place and you're depressed and you're hurting. If you can just in a moment think of someone else that might be suffering, pick up the phone and call them. Say a prayer for them. Take it out of you. Take it away from you, because we can get so in our journey to be a better person. We can get so self-absorbed that we're just looking at our own, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? We're judging ourselves and we're doing everything to find joy. But if we in those moments can go, wait, what about this sweet person that's taking care of his wife who's had cancer for 5 years?
Right.
Let me connect with that person. Let me grab him. Let's pray together. Let's do something. Let's make a meal for someone. Do something to give back to someone besides yourself. I mean, that is a light switch.
Yeah.
That's a
Very
light
true.
switch is how we share.
Mm-hmm. Very important. You brought up another J word. Joy can be stolen in some cases by the other. It's not joy, it's judgment, right?
Yes.
And so
The joy stealer. Yes.
it's almost like if you're human, there's a good chance you've judged someone, something, and even yourself, right?
And get ready to get kicked back from it too.
Yeah.
Oops, should have judged them on that. There it is on me.
That is a very, very tough place to go because it's almost like, well, what's the answer to alleviate the stress of judgment, even on yourself, right? I mean, think about how much we judge ourselves based on what we've done, where we want to go, who we aren't, what life experiences we've had. So what's the answer? And it doesn't have to be, it's not a black or white. I highly doubt it's a black or white type of a thing. And so I'm just more curious about how you understand judgment and what it is to reconcile it in a way where I don't have to walk around concerned that I'm looking at myself and saying, oh, you're fat and ugly, because you're a loving human being. That doesn't mean you don't have to eat better and drink better and make different decisions, but not judge myself so I don't push myself into a deeper hole, or judge the person that's walking by that has a little bit more success than you and you're like, yeah, whatever, that guy's a jerk. How do we control that, Marla? How do we get inside of ourselves to make that a non-issue, even though a non-issue might be difficult, but it's still something that's worth exploring to improve on?
It's just an awareness, isn't it? I mean, it's just being aware, like you just described, a few situations where it can happen. It's like being aware, number one, means you are a conscious being. You care about yourself and you care about others, or you wouldn't even be aware of where you're judging, right? So that in itself is creating an opening for a breakthrough. And we live in a world where there's so much judgment. How much joy does it give you to judge someone else? What, a minute of pleasure?
Yeah.
A minute of pleasure? I mean, no. And I, learned a long time ago that the things that we judge can come right back for us to have to look at in our own lives. And I learned it in some huge lessons with some specific ways that I judge people as a Southern Baptist girl. And we just have to, we have to continually be watching for the areas that we judge and forgiving ourselves for it at the same time. And conversations can trigger it. And, gang mentality, you're sitting with a group of your coolest friends and one person says something about one person, then, oh, well, I heard that too. And then the next thing you know, you're all going down this and you're bringing what they say in ancient Hebrew, Lashon Hara. It's evil tongue, evil talk hurts everyone that's exposed to it. Doesn't just hurt the person that you may be talking about, it hurts you, and it hurts all the people in the awareness that are hearing it. So just the next time that you're in a crowd or a group or even a friend starts to speak down on someone else, I mean, Lord knows politics is a great example of it, but the next time you hear it, just say, this, love you, this doesn't serve me, I'm going to have to walk away from this conversation. And you are allowed to walk away from conversations that can bring you pain and others pain. So I know that we all, as human beings that are soul beings, we come in with a purpose. Who am I to judge? No, I did. Does that bother you? That bothered me. That light went out.
No, it's perfect. You look good.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just balancing these lights here.
Oh, come on. This is a rock star.
No,
we're
my
going.
yoga girlfriend gave me her 2 lights for today. So I'm like,
no, it's perfect.
So, I if we think about the soul's purpose for coming into the world, right? Like there's something inside Manny, something inside Marla, these souls before we entered the world, that there was a divine purpose for us being there. And possibly in order to achieve that, we might have had to walk down a road that others might judge, right?
Absolutely.
In order to stay in line with our purpose. Neil Donald Walsh wrote a book that I love. I keep it up on my website, Little Soul in the Sun. And it's about these 2 souls sitting up in another world. They're like, say they're swinging out on a moon up here, and they go, okay, I'm thinking about going back. What about you? Oh yeah, maybe I will too. What do you want to learn? Well, I want to learn forgiveness. Oh, you want to learn forgiveness? Okay, I'll go back and I'll help you with that.
Mm,
As long as you promise me you'll never forget who I am and that I love you.
mm.
So, how was that little soul able to come teach forgiveness to the other soul? Probably had to do something pretty awful, right?
Sure. Of course, to
In order
understand it.
for that soul to learn how to forgive and
Mm,
have unconditional love for the circumstance.
yeah.
So that's what I strive to do every moment. I think, there's a thought out there about someone else or someone causing pain to someone else, and it's bring it right back in that moment. That's the awareness we have to have, and train yourselves and talk to your friends and family about, help me stay on board. I've noticed that I can get a little judgmental about that rich guy over there, that what the heck good has he done in life for other people?
Mm,
I'm a good guy. Why's he
right.
got the money? I mean,
Right.
simple things like that. Have your wife, have your family, have a friend. Just say, please, call me out on it when I do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Just call me out because I want to work on it. I want to improve on that.
Mm, so true. I was,
Community,
yeah, yeah. Having the right people around you is a big, big, big part of it. I mean, toxicity on the other side of the what are the ants? Automatic negative thoughts. I think. Yeah, I think that's ants.
You got to
Right.
teach me
So yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Heard that a bunch of times, but it's got get them out, get them out. So I'm in San Diego this past weekend and talking to a friend to catch up, and he's sharing with me the recent experiences that he's had with some psychedelics and going in the direction of really getting to the source of his trauma,
Yeah,
and that it's very difficult to go there on a conscious level just in the ordinary world of thinking because, again, you have all the infusions of all the noise and the distractions. And so anyway, he proceeds to tell me that he went and hired someone, and they, if I believe the word is psilocybin. I don't. Does that sound right?
Simon.
Psilocybin. Psilocybin. Yes. And that part right there, I might be butchering a little bit, but my point is that he hired someone. They had these sessions where they went and they got extremely high on mushrooms and psychedelics. And he's sharing with me that that allowed him to go to the place of the trauma, the root of the trauma, and to explore what was really holding him back in his life. And they found out that he had a lot of hate for his father. And this, so he's sharing this with me. This is a couple days ago. And he said what he did was he sent a text message to his father right after that happened. And he said the moment that he sent it and hit the button to send, that it all went away and that he was better at that point. And so I'm curious if, from a forgiveness standpoint, if it's just so much as a decision to you, Marla, or it's another type of thing that people have to, because you can say it, but what does it really mean? Like, okay, I got to walk up to that person. Like, if I have to forgive myself for all the life and trauma, my mom passing away when I was 10 years old and growing up without a mother and, being all this different trauma, blah, 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 and I take all the onus, what does it mean for me to go say, hey, you forgive yourself? But in a year or two, I'm really not shored up because I haven't really understood what the forgiveness means. So from a practical and even an action standpoint, Marla, is there something that you can elaborate on there from the forgiveness standpoint so someone can go out there and be more forgiving and have it be more sustainable?
Mm. I learned this through, I think it was I've studied a lot of different spiritual paths, and this was Kabbalah, I think, that you can ask forgiveness of someone, say if you hurt a partner, they say, you ask forgiveness once, they refuse it. Ask forgiveness twice, they refuse it. Ask forgiveness the third time, they refuse it, then you're forgiven.
Mm.
But it's being willing to put it out there.
Okay.
It 3 times,
Sure.
be able to put it out there to release it from you. So now it's just on that person to have to learn to do the same.
Mm.
Some people hold on a lot tighter to their anger and their blame. And, you just made me think of, it's so funny how just listening to you, I remembered a horrible situation, where I gave away my power as a kid. I remember, oh gosh, this is crazy. It just flashed through my mind. So I must be meant to look at it. We're living in New York and you have so many situations, and I'm a free spirit and you don't always, you can be taken advantage of. And this guy that said he worked for one of the modeling agencies, kind of pushed me. I was walking down Central Park South, and he like, let's go into the plaza. And I was like, oh, well, okay. Next thing I know, he's pushing me into the ladies' room and trying to rape me. And I have not thought about that. You're talking about old traumas. That just, hey, you mentioned your guys did the psychedelics, and it came up for me just through hearing it. Yeah. It's like an energy transfer. It's like, did I ever process that I let myself become vulnerable to this person that owned a modeling agency, or brother owned a modeling agency, a big one. And just because he thought he could take advantage of me because he had some sort of power over me, because I was, a young, innocent girl walking down the street in Manhattan. And it's like, where I've got to forgive myself. Why did I let myself for a minute even get in a situation which could have been awful? I got out of it, but it went far. It was to a point I had to fight to get out of it.
Right.
And so as I look back at that, it's like, am I angry at that man? No, I'm more angry at myself for letting myself get into that position, to be honest. It's like, so this is like, bring it back. Understand that you have strength. You have power over your words. Nobody's going to give you something you don't already have. You're right. And if you walk your life with integrity, forget about it. Nobody can give you anything that's worth losing yourself for a moment that you think it might give you a better job or a better experience. Right. Or, so for me, it's like, oh my goodness, forgive myself now for letting myself be too vulnerable.
Sure. And that's a great point, by the way, where you can beat yourself up in that, even though it's not your doing. That's the whole idea, right? It's like, I think a lot of people take the responsibility for things that they didn't do, but affected them in some way. And then there's a level of, one, guilt, and two, shame, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's so subtle. It's almost like they're almost invincible forces, and you can't even see them. And yet you wonder why in life you keep creating the same scenario. Now we can go all in, the Joe Dispenza directions and the other habits of breaking yourself and things like that, which I think are incredibly good. But
there's something for everyone.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. With that situation, Marla, in terms of, like, for example, me losing my mom and, not having a motherly figure in my life and growing up in Vegas and then getting into the nightlife, like, I had a really ruptured outlook on women, and I've still been working on it religiously, where I didn't realize what the traumas were until I grew up and I got clean and sober, and then I started working on myself. And you get in the environment and the situation, and now I'm like, oh wow, I have some deep rooted trauma with that. In your case, how did you take that scenario and not let it affect you from going out and talking to more men, and or deciding to date again, and or to let yourself be relieved of the worry or the concern that trauma might resurface or happen again? And why I'm asking that question is because I think a lot of people out there have been in, it might not be a rape situation, but it might be something that has profoundly affected them in some way. And so I'm looking for the resolve and the ability to rebound, to go back out there to make sure you do live life again, and that it doesn't take you 40 years or 50 years or 10. Maybe it only takes a couple weeks or months, even though there's probably a period of time in there you need to fix the things. But for you, I'm curious how you were able to manage that in terms of the depth of that trauma. And again, in the case you said at the beginning, be born again through that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's just one that popped up as we were talking. And I did have other situations somewhat similar. So it's like, not to let yourself be robotic and to expect things to always be that way. Because I had another situation where someone came at me with a knife when I was leaving my church in New York, and there was a lot of different situations that could have halted me from being able to get out and live life. But the truth is, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful, and I have a lot of faith in humanity. And just because I have a situation that has come into my awareness in my field and had, done some damage to my auric field, so to speak, and the way I may hesitate to get involved with a man or something, it doesn't mean I have to stop living, but it does mean that you can go in and look at it and forgive yourself for being in this situation and forgive the person for what they might have done to you. But it does have an effect. It really does have an effect on opening yourself up again to just something else. But, this again, when I've had situations with strangers where they've come into my field and tried to bring harm, it's always so good to be able to be safely vulnerable, have a friend, have people that you can go to with these things. And not having a mom was another level of, wow, you have to learn how at a very young age how to deal with these traumas on your own. And I had my mom until 8 or 9 years ago, but so she was my go-to person. But I always asked too, I would say, for friends to be there. I feel like friends and community helps you through everything. And you've got to have someone you can tell your stuff to that can just listen, listen and reflect it back. And that releases something, and just breathe it out again, like release it from your body. Any area where you've had this kind of emotional pain and hurt, release it, but know that where there's the pain, there's also the chance to have great joy on the other side. And where there's someone that betrays you, there's on the other side, there's going to be someone that's going to love you for all that you are, with all of your imperfections. And that is, yes, someone can say, I love Christ. So that is a place I go to. But I also think that love comes through human beings on the earth that are here to walk the journey with you. And don't isolate yourself so much that you don't allow people in to help you through that journey.
Sure. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to have such an ego that you disobey the laws of asking for or being led to because you're saying, oh, I got this on my own. It's hardly a recipe to make it work, right?
It's ego. With anything. I know I was doing this morning, the ego annihilator, where you hold your thumbs up like this, you do the breath of fire.
Oh, that's good.
You got a couple of minutes and, with your thumbs up like this, and that just getting that breath in and out through your nose and pumping your stomach, it just literally like releases. Ego eradicator and Kundalini.
Next time we're going to have to do a very demonstrating type of a podcast where we're going to be sitting here doing work and exercises together. Yeah, that's incredible. By the way, I know I've heard of those types of programs and those different types of exercises. And I remember when I go back to when I first got sober, that one of the first things I did was I would listen to Tony Robbins and I'd walk around my neighborhood and I would shout out loud and I would do the deep breaths in and I would tap my fingers just like you would tell me. And so it just reminds me of exactly what it is you're sharing there. And there was a profound effect on that.
Those things were created out of someone having an issue and had to find a pathway and decided, well, this, you try that enough, you realize this is something that I can share and help other people. How great is that?
Yeah, incredible. So as we tail off towards winding up here, because I know you've got to make another engagement here, and I don't want to hold your spirit up at all. I'm super grateful for you. The recent situation with your father, a lot of our texting back and forth has been around you taking the time and the love and the care to be next to your father, and he was having a little bit of a health scare and you were there with him. Did that situation provide you a new perspective in life? Was there something now at this juncture of all the life you've lived and all the experiences you've had where being by your dad's side in the hospital made you look at something differently, made you evaluate life this way, made you reconsider that? What was that experience like for you?
Well, I'm laughing because I've gone through quite a few experiences like this, and it just, of course, made me reevaluate that I don't ever really want to be in the hospital. So I want to do everything I can to keep myself healthy, in alignment, and in support, and just never have to go through that step. I don't think any of us really want to, but just what can I do in my life daily for my best health and my best mental state and such. I just love, I know I've learned a lot about myself through my mother's illness and my father's and my grandfather, who I was so close to, and friends that go through times of suffering. the most important thing in my life is being there for people when they need you. When people are vulnerable and they don't have anyone that's like, show up for them, show up, hold their heart, let them know they're loved. And, you may not be able to do anything else, but just in letting them know they're loved and you have their heart can be the best thing for their healing. And now, I call my dad, hey, for your call, hey, Dad, I've been trying to get through you. Where have you been? Not in your room, huh? So, I mean, it's just like, when especially our aging parents or family members they can do so much for us, and maybe we don't always show appreciation. So I just watched in both of my parents when they felt my unconditional love, and you want them to feel it. You want them to feel it always, not just when they have a health challenge, but that just being able to let people that and that you love know that you love them every day. My mom was she was so beautiful, but insecure, right? And always trying to make sure she did things to get love and approval. And through her illness, she's like, oh, she watched my commitment to her. And I watched her feel more worthy in a way, because she could really see that everything else goes away when your parent needs you, right? You're just going to be there. So I watched how that love that commitment that I had to my parents, how it brought them more peace and joy, because maybe I had not shared it enough. We think we're telling we love them, but they're alone a lot. So something triggers. So just always be so mindful. Just even if it's painful, maybe you have this traumas in your family, but somehow break through that and let people know that they are worthy.
Sure.
Of love.
Yeah, it makes me think about, even when you get into a simple little argument or in a relationship, something simple, for me, I had to realize that I couldn't always be the stern, tough, manly guy. I had to go over there and lend a empathetic hand or a thought or just a shoulder to lean on and let the venting happen. And I'm like, this is so weird, but I get it. Okay, understood. Got to practice this. Got to make it more religious.
Yeah.
Marla, you said a word there that in the great spirit of spirituality and of transparency and vulnerability, you mentioned that your mom had her own insecurities. And I know that most humans have insecurities. I have insecurities, but I also like letting people know that I'm human, and so I share those at times. And so I'm curious if at this juncture in life, even though you do lots of practice work and exercise work around life, if there are any outstanding insecurities that you have that you wouldn't mind letting the audience know that would inspire them to feel like, okay, I'm human, she's human, we're all on this journey together. You know what? That made me think that, okay, I'm not as bad as I thought, or I'm not judging myself. And so would you mind sharing if you have any? If you don't, well, then what's the recipe?
You mean the ones I've already worked through today
far? Yeah. I always try to tap there's got to be a big well there. Maybe there's not.
There's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. Heck, dating, like being, I remember at some point I met someone, went on a date, and I'm so used to just kind of being alone and eating my food, and I was like, oh, I'm on a date. I shouldn't just be eating. It's like I forgot. Like during COVID, we're home, we're making food, we're eating. I'm like, that's my best friend is my food that I'm making. And then I'm on a date. I'm like, wow, I'm really ignoring you because I'm so into my food.
That's funny.
I think the insecurities come. Listen, proactive aging, aging is a challenge because I believe in the spirit of the mind, the spirit of the soul, but it's also hard, especially like when you've been tapped in to, being beautiful or being the homecoming queen or whatever it might be. I'm very grateful that I still have my strength in my body to work out and train and do like I always did. But that's a place I feel secure. But yeah, it's different when you see the smile that you've had all of your life forming deep wrinkles. It's like, why is that not okay?
Yeah.
Why do we all work so hard on perfection? I don't want to do that. but it's all around us. So
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely an insecurity, and a lot of women feel, and a lot of men feel. And staying yourself, allowing yourself to be you, but the best version of you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
without
Yeah. Yeah.
going nuts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And not letting the physical take over, as we go through this process of going through the decades, and like suddenly there's a big one here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, yeah, like what is it to be out and be vulnerable in the I don't want to say dating world. I've always just sort of met someone and it's been my person, but at this point it might be more like being open to meet men,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
and be able to be okay with being vulnerable and show yourself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
figure like, well, that one's not for me if he's not able to handle me and
Who
all
you
who I
are.
am.
Yeah.
Right?
All exactly. Yeah. If you're going to take me, you're going to take every part of me.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
not looking to hide it.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's
And
fantastic.
wanting to be, and also the other thing is just, am I doing enough? I mean, always insecurities is like, oh, why am I just not smart enough to get these things accomplished? Right?
Mm.
All these dreams that come in here, my intuition is like, boom, boom, boom. I haven't finished one book yet. You know how many books I've started? I've had three or four book deals. That is a hard thing to wake up with every
Sure.
morning. It's like, why didn't I finish one of those books?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that get very, get insecure over that. Maybe, am I just trying to be a perfectionist? Or am I not? Do I really maybe not have anything to say
Mm.
that's important enough? So working yourself through. I
Yeah.
work myself
Yeah.
through a lot of those
Yeah.
things.
God bless you for being transparent, raw, vulnerable right there. I mean, that's everything. And I'm glad that you went there because I think it's a demonstration of strength. And I think that's what we need in today's day and age is a beacon of light, beacon of hope. And I just love connecting with the human being, and knowing those things is always a translation to, one would say, the spirit of the next person, right? That's tuning in and
Yeah.
listening. I just remember back when I was on the journey myself, when I first got sober, and I was listening to people, and I just realized how profound it was to hear these things. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not all that bad. I'm not, oh, okay, great. So it really helped me center. So God bless. And at the end of this now, sadly, we're not. By the way, this is just the ending of
There's no
this.
endings.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always the next new beginnings.
Of this recording, as we move to the next one in the future, Marla, the last things or anything that you didn't get to say that I didn't get to that is on your heart or that's heavy in your mind and life that you think would benefit somebody listening? And then I'll ask you my final question, which really just has to do about the meaning of the show. So if anything is heavy on your heart or in the spirit of your all spirits,
Yeah,
is there
I
something?
just two things come to mind. It's just forgive yourself, forgive others,
Mm-hmm.
and look at those that may seem the hardest to love as being the most vulnerable and the
Mm-hmm.
most needing love. The other is, I like to say how proud I am of you of coming through this journey and now being a father, and wish you so much, love and learning and enlightenment. You and your beautiful fiance on this journey with your child. You've come a long way. So I just want to give you credit
Well,
for what you've done. And you do things, you do things from your heart. And that's when we first spoke on the phone. I felt your passion for life and for others and your heart. So
Well,
it's going
thank
to be
you.
really wonderful to watch how it places itself in this beautiful new family.
Well, you just took a little bit of piece of my heart right there, and you got a nice little branding of Marla Maples right there.
In your heart.
I feel grateful. Yes, yes. Yeah, no, very much so. Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it. And yes, the duty is to be a great leader, great father, great partner, great podcast host, great connection, great friend, great ally, great peer, all that stuff, right? And so it only happens in the conquest of fulfilling our greatest, I guess I could say the pursuit of self-actualization, which this show is really about, reaching our fullest and highest potential in our areas. So last question for you so you can get out of here and be on with your beautiful day out there in beautiful Florida. What does always on the grow mean to you?
Oh, to me, that's what spirituality is. That's it. It's like growth and desire, right? What's spirituality? That's spirituality, me being always on the grow.
Hey now,
Yeah.
look at that. I always enjoy hearing the ones that I haven't heard before, and that one got me excited because, yeah, that's like the root of all roots, the center of all things being, of all humanness, right? It's spirituality.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for taking time out of your energetic and discovering, and now that Tiffany and Michael are there, family day, and
Yes.
being a part of this special time. And we'll definitely have to keep exploring how to keep making the world a better place. I'm going to throw it out there, but Soul Shine Journeys might have to come back around. And if
Thank
there's any
you.
way I can help you, I'm always here for you.
I thank you so much. Pulling a team together so that we can do that. It's an important time to do that. So yeah, just keep hanging out. Check out marlamaples.com, and I'll try to put things there. And
That's the other thing, by the way. Yeah. So I don't know if you're promoting anything or if you have a place that you want people to go outside of marlamaples.com, but yes, please do share that.
And I just put everything kind of there, and on Instagram, I kind of move things that I'm doing through there until the next best thing that appears.
Fantastic.
Walk into that next platform, right?
Amazing. Yeah, you're always putting out the best stuff too with this spiritual side of things, and it's just enlightening. I think that's a good word for it, enlightenment. You are an enlightener, Marla. That is you.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
Well, I have been enlightened by life.
There you go.
And yeah, that's what I believe. That's what we light workers are here for, is to help enlighten others to know that they are too the light.
Absolutely.
Doesn't fall on one person; it falls on all of us.
Yeah. God bless. Let's go be lights together. Let's go do God's work.
Let's do God's work. Thank you, Manny.
You're welcome.
Heart and soul.
Thank you.
Love you.
All right.